Hey y'all. Today's video is going to be about Aries, um, the first house, and Mars, which all those it's pretty much they all pretty much fall under the same umbrella. Um, to understand the houses and where they are in your chart, I've left links to where you can get birth charts, or you can just Google birth chart. You'll have to know your time, the time you were born, and where, in order to figure out what planets are in each house. If you don't know, you can still see what signs these planets are in, but you won't understand how they impact your life. Aries is the first sign. Um, I associate it with childhood, with youth, with with newness, because Aries represents spring. It is the first sign, and spring typically signals a new year. At least in astrology, it's rebirth. And so, because of that, I think of Aries as the youngest sign. And when we're thinking about the first house in particular, which is also called your ascendant, it's our immediate exposure to the world, is how we interact with the world, and it's how the world interacts with us, at least on a superficial level. So when we're first born, when we're kids, it's all ego. It's all what you want. It's unconscious for the most part. So that's where that comes from. Uh, so let's say you have Taurus rising. Taurus is in your first house. How you immediately might interact with the world is you might just be calm, cool, and collected. Might let things roll off your back. You take it pretty steady. Um, So that's pretty much the first house. I think I'll do a series later where I go more in depth into that, but for the most part, that's pretty much what the first house is. As for Aries, Aries is typically, if you think of the dictionary definitions, maybe impulsive, headstrong, sexy, arrogant, all that. Which it's not to say that's false, but it's just very shallow. The first stage, I feel like each sign, in the process of maturing and in the process of interacting with the world and really finding the soul's purpose, Aries in the first stage, they might be very headstrong. They might be very arrogant. They might be very aggressive. But over time, this Aries energy will realize that, especially if there are hard aspects to Aries, meaning that if there are certain challenges, especially in the astrological makeup of things, if certain planets are harshly affecting it or helping it, that could change how Aries expresses itself. Now, the sun is exalted in Aries, meaning that the sun prefers to be here. The sun rules Leo, which is really the preferred place, but the best position is in Aries because the sun represents the soul's desire, our heart, our soul, really, and how we bring that out into the world. So with the sun being in Aries, these people are very passionate just to pursue their talents in whatever way that is, whether it's athletics or in creativity or in just leading. So the Aries individual, the Aries soul, will really have to work to try to bring that energy about in a way that is productive. And an unproductive Aries energy might leave a few people burned. They might get burned by this energy, or they might feel blown off, or they might feel like they were just trampled over. Um, but that isn't Aries' intent. I see Aries as a very impatient sign. Only impatient because they see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're just trying to make ways to get to it, in whatever way that is. And an Aries is going to be determined and steadfast to do so. So that's where that falls under. Now, it ties in with Mars being the ruling planet of Aries, in that Mars is all about passion. It is where that passion comes from. So usually wherever Mars is in your birth chart and what it affects, that shows us what we're really driving toward. And it's a personal planet. It's one of the inner planets. So it's an aspect of people. It's an aspect of people that people might see in how you manifest things. Like I have Mars in Gemini in my first house, so I can come across as an aggressively inquisitive, aggressively knowledgeable, just hungry and passionate for gaining knowledge and giving it back out to the world, in whatever way that entails. So yeah, Mars is pretty much all about passion. So the ultimate goal of Aries is to realize that it's not wrong to pursue your passion in an assertive, well, there's a difference between assertiveness and aggressiveness. And that's the problem with Aries, or if you have a strong first house, if you have a strong Mars placement, is to really understand that there is a difference between aggressiveness and assertiveness. Aggression, we're acting out unconsciously from unresolved emotional issues, to where we project that onto other people. So it's always healthy to find a balanced way and a healthy way to really channel that energy and to really focus it on something that's really in line with our heart's desire. Not in a way that's vengeful, or not in a way that's dictatorial, or in a way where it's essentially about fulfilling one's ego, which isn't bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an ego, but at some point it crosses the line to where it's a detriment to those around you. So it's always good to incorporate the opposite signature of this, which is Libra, which is about harmony and diplomacy and being able to really be tactful and really work with people in ways that can help build strong relationships. So that's really much an Aries challenge. Probably, every sign has their challenges, and that's probably a challenge of Aries, is to realize when to pause, when to stop, when to realize that there are other people around you that do want to help you. Because while it's good to charge forward and to really go with your gut and follow your goals and pursue your ambitions, you can't just blow people aside to do so. At least that's not healthy, because ultimately it could come to hurt you. You could burn some bridges. You could not get to where you need to because you're so sure of yourself and you're so sure of that. But at the end, if you keep just pushing forward and keep pushing ahead, you're going to realize that, you're probably going to be alone and you're not going to have the support around you that you need, which is very important. A lot of us are cocky enough to think we can do things on our own. I don't fault those people, but ultimately your foundation is going to be kind of fragile if you don't build a good network of people around you, and if you aren't able to get your point across and pursue your goals in ways that are beneficial to the people around you too. But it's not bad as long as you know what you're doing is right, and as long as you know that your goal is with good intent. I don't see how anything could really go wrong with this. So yeah, just remember to take time to realize that there are other people around you as well. It's a lesson I've had to learn, and I think it's one that we all have to learn in some aspect, in some way, and we just can't be afraid to pause and be afraid to stop and be afraid to listen to another person's side and to really appreciate what they have to say, but still being, if you have your beliefs, you have your beliefs, but, not to scorn people or disregard people because of it. So yeah, that's Aries. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening.